Well, based on the last video, you probably could tell I needed a new camera. So I went and got a new camera, and I got a different style. The last one I used was a Osmo Pocket. It was cool, I liked it, but I wanted to try their Action, DJI's Action. So I got one of those. We are going to get into this week's workload. I've got quite a few different things I need to get done. And then at the end of this week, the guys from Royal Enfield will be at Baxter, so that's kind of the big thing with that Interceptor chop project thing that you just saw. So the video will mostly comprise of quite a few different jobs. Let's get into those. I ground this crank Friday night. And so it does need balance, so I dropped the flywheel on, that's why it's sitting like this. It's now cooled off, obviously. So I can get the tube and plug in and get it ready for balance. This was a half-width flywheel. This was his original flywheel here, and he wants it balanced, which means I cannot use this flywheel. These are too light for me to do a balance job on. So I actually have been, just did this for another guy. This is a metric flywheel, and so I've actually got a ton of these laying around, and I had never attempted to put one on just because I didn't need to, but I'm starting to run out of like the traditional. These flywheels are getting kind of harder to get. I mean, obviously there's still quite a few out there, but I've used up a lot of my stock, and so now I'm trying to kind of scour and get as many. But I have quite a few of these metric ones. Full width, half width, metric. So just kind of get you guys. Obviously, there's a lot more. There's a lot more detail, blah blah. But you get the idea. The last balance I did for a guy with this flywheel, it actually was like really close. I did not have to do a lot of work, which if I can duplicate that result with this one, I'm going to be convinced that that's the way to go from now on, given that I have the part. So when somebody wants the upgrade, this is going to be my go-to. But like I said, we got to get this prepped, get our weights, go over to the balance, get that done. Then I also have his cases and his transmission, so I have to do kind of the full bottom end assembly to send back. I also just got done with boring these Norton cylinders. I think the last step is I need to just use my chamfer tool and do a nice little lead in for the rings on the last side. So this needs to be finished, and I need to start honing that. And then I've got this nasty top end that needs to go back to Baxter for Justin to reassemble on the owner's bike. So he has been relentlessly wanting it back and harassing those guys. So I'm going to get this taken care of, I think, this week too. So I just got the order of stuff in from Dan to do valves and guides and stuff like that. So I can actually get in on this job. That crank needs done. This is this guy's original head, but it is no good. The seats are roached, and so I have a replacement head. I'd like to do that this week also, and I'm just going to stop there because I'm already getting kind of ambitious with what I just listed. So I do have one other top end. This is Utah Mike's. He's kind of high priority too. I need to find out if this needs ground or not, because it is a 3-piece, which means I'm going to have to do a little bit different setup on the crank grinder, so I need to get all those unit cranks done first, and then we can do this. But full build, I think, on this top end. But I need to get it apart, get it measured, tell them what it does and doesn't need. So that's kind of up there on the list also. So that should wrap it up. I'm actually going to stop now because, like I said, I don't want to get ahead of myself. And to add to all of it, I also need to get this to where it starts and runs, because I want to actually show that I can finish something to that point at least. Obviously, there's a lot more finish work that needs to be done, but if I could at least get it to where it starts and maybe goes up and down the road, that'd be really, really cool. Also, for any of you wondering, do not polish the legs on an Interceptor. It takes so long. Unless you have a great way to remove powder coat, it is a lot of work. But that's what took more time. I think taking them from raw aluminum to polished was the easy part. Getting all the black off was the hard part. But I took the top fender brace off. That was the big thing, and then a few other little bits and pieces, but it still has the brake lug on it. I'm going to try and do some close-up work so that way we can see how good this thing focuses up close, because a lot of what I do is small part. They do make lenses for this thing, so if necessary I can get some lenses to make this stuff look better. But I have this carbide I made to cut a lead in on the bottom, the chamfer on the bottom of these cylinders. I've done this side. You can kind of tell maybe. Let's see what lighting does for this. You can see kind of that bevel there, and so it just really makes ring installation much smoother. So there's not much of one from factory, and usually I cut a lot of it out when you're doing a lot of boring. So because of that, I'm going to go ahead and add a bunch more. I have this problem where all the videos I do, I never know what I should and shouldn't be showing, and then I just end up talking about what I'm doing or what I did, which I don't know how much entertainment value that has. So with this new camera, I'm less scared of hurting it, so I think I'm going to do a lot more actual work footage. So we'll see how that goes. Because I can't use the mic to set this, I am just kind of getting it down and eyeballed actually on the part, and then snug it up, and then just make sure I'm nice and tight here. But I manually feed this down, so we just have to make sure we clear that, the block, the standoff block there. We just have to make sure we're clearing that when it's coming around. So I'll spin it by hand. Yep, we're clearing it. So now I'll start it and then slowly manually feed it. Okay, so we're gonna work on the Norton back and forth because I like to take a lot of time honing those because they're heavy and you don't want to have any weird swelling spots or egg shape or anything like that. So we're gonna jump over on this top end. I wanted to kind of show, this is what happens when you just ignore leaks and just keep letting things get disgusting. This is going to be so annoying to clean. I am extremely frustrated just because it, you know, the road grime and then leaking oil and road grime and baking and hot and blah blah. But the other thing is somebody hasn't set this up right. There's no reason for that amount of grime. It almost looks like when people run no filters. You know, just an open carb will definitely start to pack mud down in, but that's disgusting. And then I don't think you're going to be able to see it very well, but there is some gnarly lines and grooving, like maybe water was living in this at one point somewhere. So overall, not a great cylinder. It'll be fine, I'll save it, but just this is disgustingly dirty and neglected and poorly treated. But I'm going to get this cleaned up. It's going to take me a while. And then you can see the same story on the head, just leaking and leaking and leaking and just ignoring it and just letting it burn on there. And obviously his pushrod tubes were a big issue, but I also have a feeling, just based on how wet everything is, it probably has quite a bit of valve guide leaking. But yeah, I don't know. The head could be better. It looks like the seats are a little deep. Not much I can do there. I'll just try and save what's there. So, yeah. So, get the valves out. Probably pull the spigots just because I don't want to be responsible for repainting those. I don't like doing that. So, I'm going to pull the valves, and then start cleaning this up. I might try and get some of this oil off before I put it in the blaster, because all that's going to do is clog my machine. So yeah, just disgusting bad example of stuff. But ew. Grab across the head bolt, head gasket kind of area. I've got my rubber soft jaws in and get a good pinch on that. 1.5" Mac wrench. There's the part number if you need it. But I like this one because it's got the goofy head on the other end. Really helps with getting these off. Now, you need to remove your little spigots that link the two together. And so you can put, I don't like putting vice grips on them. You can put vice grips on yours. I actually just use my stud extractors. They grab that pretty well. Okay, some of you animals are going to get vice grips on these. Like I said, I like using these stud extractors, so they're not in there all that tight. Usually, yeah, see, they're both already loose. Make sure you lose them. Now, I think it'd be zinc coated or CAD plate, I can't remember, from the factory. I don't do any of that. I don't, there's no real easy way for me to get that done. So I usually leave this up to the owner. See, these are really loose. I'm having a suspicion that somebody has been in this top end not that long ago and just did like a backyard poor man's rebuild on it. Just based on the leaking and the oil and everything being loose and it looking like the cylinders aren't set up right. It kind of makes you feel like it may have been rebuilt not that long ago poorly. And I shouldn't even say the word rebuilt because there's only one real definition for rebuilt, and this is not it. So once those are both out, then pretty much we just need to drop the valves. Maybe I can get you in here better so we can see. That is just black void of nasty, sticky, gooey, chunky oil. That is disgusting. As you can see, I finally got the valves out of this thing. I did get started on this cylinder. It's not perfect yet. It still has a little bit left here and there. But I wanted to get the blocks out and then I'll finish this job. But I don't know who made these, but there's a bunch of guides that have like rings around them, and each ring means like an oversize. So that's going to be like 2 over. That's a mismatch. That's a mismatch. Or these two don't match. Obviously, that's an oversized one. That's a random one, and then the 2 intakes do match. They are huge. They're super, super worn out. They needed replaced. These seats are disgusting. That is just not very pretty to look at. I don't know if you guys are going to be able to tell from the angles, but just not a very good valve job. Protector on the glass isn't that good right now, and so it's not very much fun for me to try and film because you guys are not going to be able to see anything. There's a head right now, so you can see it there, but once you get over here, you can't see anything. So I'm not going to worry about trying to show you guys anything right now. I've been thinking about posting my PL box in the description of one of these videos, so then that way people can send me stickers so I can finish covering this thing. Like I said before, we're doing a lot of bouncing around on stuff. This is actually Andre's head, his replacement head. I got it kind of finished blasting up. The 2 intake guides are already knocked out. This is just a head I had laying around, so I'm baking it to get the exhaust guides out. And we're still working on that grimy top end, getting it clean. I think we will knock out the tappet blocks now, though. Obviously, the first thing you got to do is get these locator bolts out. I'm going to try and do all this one-handed. But the reason we want to remove these is there is an O-ring in here, and we want to get it kind of replaced because they get hard, and also it's a great opportunity to clean them all back out. There is a oiler right here that feeds that tappet block on the exhaust side. Yeah, obviously is going to have some grime in it, not only just from it running, but also from what I just did as far as putting all that glass in there. So we want to get these both out, and then you can use that tool that you use a hammer and beat it out. It's a special tool. I don't know the part number. I don't like doing that. I'm going to use the arbor press, so we're going to jump down there really quick. Ignore the mess, please. I've been very busy, so I've not taking the time to clean this up. Anyway, I like using the arbor press just because it's less aggressive. I've actually broke tappet blocks before. They're just cast steel, and so they do like to kind of fall apart. So the arbor press is just a little bit more gentle. You know, if you do have to use the hammer tool, just make sure you're really square on this when you go to beat it. So here you can kind of see maybe what I was talking about. It just gets that little bit of buildup in there anyway, and then I've added to it when I media blasted them. So these will get properly cleaned, and maybe I can show you how these are pretty hard. What happens is those O-rings, you know, the oil and the heat and everything gets them super, super hard, and they almost actually will just break off. You don't even have to peel them off. They'll just kind of shatter. So great reason to replace them while you're in here. It just makes it easier to work with. They're out of the way. I am going to media blast the rest of this off, you know, just get it all finished up. There's a few spots, you know, a bunch of silicone built up back there, but just make sure this is nice and uniform and clean, and then we will make sure the top is flat and we can get kind of moved towards boring this. Again, I still have to finish doing his head. It is super gnarly, so it's taking too long. I like to walk away from the blaster after you get, you know, all your patience used up. So I'm gonna wait and show you the next step, I guess. Alright, I ran to the P.O. box and got my package from Dan, which has what we need to do Andre's head. This is so much fun to do one-handed. Beehive. Be calm, not loud. That's awesome. Ah, yes, my money back, just like I asked. Cool. And some bushings, and this is why you buy from Dan. Look at how nice all this packaging is. I mean, seriously. You know what everything is. He's got the little dot bubble with info in it. I love it. Okay, cool. This is what we were after, though. Andre wanted a beehive kit, so... And obviously we needed the guides, too, but I need to get him taken care of because he has been patiently waiting. Like I've said multiple times, this is a replacement head, and so what I wanted to point out was the reason I'm replacing it is because his old head, we're not gonna dig the head out, but his seats are really, really deep, and there's not much material left. Valve seat replacement in these is not a fun task at all. I really don't like doing it, and it's just easier for me to find a replacement head sometimes. This one actually took a little bit to find, but I got it. It clearly has had a valve job done, but there's still a lot of material left. From the factory, it is just the 45. This 45-degree angle here is all they cut. And you can see that's all somebody else has done too. You know, you have this hemispherical angle and then the 45. And so I'm going to do a 30, 45, 60, which the 60, 45, who cares? But when you do that hemispherical angle into that 45, or into the 30, into the 45, you kind of need all that to blend back out. So you need a lot of material here in order to kind of move it. You can see on this one, somebody did deshroud pretty well, which is what I'm about to do also. So as long as I can kind of work with what they did and then bring it around. But you can see how hopefully the coloration can show how off, not concentric, the seat is to the actual guide hole. When trying to cast these seats in, they're almost always off. I mean, it's very rare to see one actually concentric to the guide hole. So it's just, they're a mess. But when you're looking at a replacement head gasket surface area, how much material is left? This one does get a little thin over here in this fin, but that's kind of common. It's the way the casting was. So I always look kind of over here. There's a lot of material left. It's still a pretty thick surface. It's not all the way down to fin level all the way around. So that's the first thing. Something else to look at is all of these bolt holes. When these heads leak, people just start cranking down on these, and it starts to really damage and mushroom and dent this standoff here. So you want to look for that. These corners for the rocker boxes, there's those 4 spots. Those can either be pulled out or blown out and like busted off. That's a nightmare to fix. It's not fun. So if that's something else to look at. The guide holes themselves, obviously, if there's still guides in it, that's way more promising. But the guides are out. It's a little bit of a red flag usually. Spigots, these are both really tight in the head, and I actually am not even going to bother touching them because I don't want to disturb them. They're in good shape. They're in there tight. So just leave them alone. But you want to look at those holes, because if they're missing or if they're loose, that can be problems. Just more things to repair. It doesn't mean the head's junk, but it just needs repaired. Gasket surfaces just overall are important, and spark plug holes. If the threads have been pulled out, that's not a good thing either. So otherwise, it's just kind of a visual inspection. The fins there, all that kind of normal stuff. But this is a good head. This is a really nice head, honestly, compared to what I find. So yeah, if you have good heads, hold on to them. But the seats are the number one thing. Once the seats are gone, it's not really financially smart to start doing seats in these, as of right now anyway. Guides are in. Jump 2 guides are in, because I can't show anything properly. Had to go +4 on the exhaust. Those are the ones that weren't in it. I knew those holes were larger. After I got them measured up, we went with +4s. Went with +2s. The guides that came out were standard, but they're a bit loose, so +2. So that way we got a good tight seal. And then advanced formula Hylamar on them as a lubricant sealant for installation. But I've got the pretty little beehives all set out. They come with the bottom and the top retainer. They do not come with the keepers. You buy those separately. And then obviously you have to order your valves separately too, but black diamond valves. And these are the manganese bronze, are not the C630, so they actually are going to hone pretty easily. But the intakes are cut for seals, so we will put seals on those. The one thing I did notice, though, when I was handling this is I am going to go ahead and do the thread repair on this side. It's not looking the hottest, so that will get done. But in the meantime, I have to hone more on that cylinder. Okay, actually, once I get these gloves on, I'm not going to sit there and touch the camera up. So I'm going to hone on this. Then we're going to switch over and put the hone all into the drill and do the guides. So maybe in between somewhere I'll set up again and show you that. But I'm just going to get this finished, and that's way more important. Alright, I got the valve guides done, and they are now, the head got flushed and cleaned up, and so it's drying right now. The cylinders are ready to get painted. So after they're honed and they've got a bunch of hone oil on them, I use a like hot soapy water, just a degreaser, to get the hone oil stripped off. And then after that, I will kind of flush it with brake clean too, just to really strip off any residue. I try not to get a bunch of brake clean or any other like carb cleans or solvents on the bore. I've just been told from various people it's not the best to clean. I'll actually use engine oil later on to get all the grit and clean the hone grooves out. But right now we need to prep it. So I really take a lot of pride in doing the paint, because nobody's going to see my bore. Like once this is back together, nobody knows what the inside looks like. So, you know, that was the first step of importance. But after that, it's really important to make sure we've got a really pretty exterior, because that's what everybody's going to see. And so they kind of judge. It's funny how people like judge your work based on the aesthetic of it. Because I've done some really, really good work on like a patina head where the inside is just beautiful, but then the outside gets left alone, and people are like, well, you know, you could have done better. And it's like, well, the job still got done the same. It's just you just can't see it. And so when it comes to like a cylinder like this, when it needs painted, you know, I take it kind of serious. So then that way, when somebody gets this back, they're going to be really impressed with the overall just finish on it, which then kind of correlates in their mind as to, well, if it looks this nice, then the work must have been done really nicely. So it always kind of helps, you know, justify, I guess, the job. And so obviously a good paint job doesn't make up for the actual work being done, but it does kind of help people change their mind. But what I do, it's kind of the grip tape. If any of you guys grew up skateboarding, you'll know this trick from cutting the edge of your grip tape off. But I just use, this is just a drill blank. It's nice and hard. I use that to kind of scratch the edge. Anywhere that doesn't work, then I go back with the razor blade and just kind of cut it. Because sometimes these gasket surfaces are kind of low, so it doesn't really give you that cut that you're looking for. But I just like to go around. I'll get all this, you know, peeled off, and then we'll flip it over and do the other side. I do duplicolor engine enamel. I do 2 layers with the cylinder upside down, and then I flip it and then do 2 layers with it right side up. 10 minutes in between each layer, and then I will let that kind of cure a little bit. And then once that's kind of dry and cure, I try not to touch it anywhere, but I'll peel the tape off, and then I'll put it in my little oven at like 250, 275 for like 30 minutes. And then I let it come down in temperature in the oven. I don't have any proof as to which stages are more important than others. That's just the routine I've done, and I'm really, really, really happy with the finish on those always. So I just, you know, kept doing it. But that's just kind of my routine. It seems to work. I used to not worry about the cure. I used to just get them painted, call it done, and send it out the door. And then, you know, once the bike got started, it would always like smoke, and it was like kind of curing on the bike. And I just don't think it's as effective. And then all the stress it gets put through leading up to installation, prior to that first start, they get chipped a lot too. So, you know, doing the whole paint and then bake has been definitely more effective. I've yet to have the type of fragility that it had before. But alright, I'm gonna keep doing this, and I'll flip it over and show you that side. Alright, so it's all sealed up. Everything's looking good. Like I said, I do it this way first, and the only reason I do it upside down first is because there's more to grab onto to flip it without having to touch anything. So I grab it here and flip it over. But it's actually kind of nice outside today, so I'll probably do some outdoor painting. But I'm gonna take it outside, 2 layers this way, flip it over, 2 layers the other way, 10 minutes in between, we'll be good to go. So this is the only cylinder I have ready right now, so it'll get painted on its own, and then I'm going to get on Andre's seats, getting those cut. So let's jump back up there. Okay, so both top and bottom gasket surfaces have been checked, and now we are ready to start playing with some seats. What I like to do, like I said before, somebody's kind of already started the D-shroud, but they only did the 45. I'm going to add a 30 in here, which is going to change some things, so I will have to move material. But what I like to usually do is trace the valve. Now, in the past, I've talked about that whole valve bounce. It doesn't really prove much. The idea is that the full face is contacting the seat, which is causing that bouncing back effect instead of the dud kind of fall when it's uneven. But I'm already kind of impressed with the alignment. if I'm going to be able to do this one-handed. That's honestly kind of funny to me that we're already that close. Kind of just shows how well that guide followed the existing angle of the seat. So just kind of a cool little thing. But what I normally do is I'll take my marker and I'll kind of trace the outside, kind of give me a guideline on where material. We need to go put more paint on our cylinders. But what I can do with that now is that will kind of show, kind of gives me a guideline where I need to start kind of moving the material for that 30, so that way the edge of the face on this valve here will kind of allow the gases to flow a little bit better instead of it being, you know, cupped all the way down in there. So I like to just kind of start dressing it up, you know, see where we're at with everything. But this one should clean up very quickly just based on how aligned it is already. Jesus Christ. Okay, I'm not sure how well this is going to show up. This is one of my gripes with the wide angle lens. It's good and bad in a lot of ways, but if you were able to see what it is there's the angle here that comes around, and then there's what you call like a D-shroud, which is kind of a nice blending transition cut. And then right here you can kind of get that harsh edge of the 30, and then that goes into the 45. You can't really see the 60 on this. You can a little bit on the backside here. It's hard to show, but you still will use that 60 to bring your 45 up. If you look on the face of the valve, again, I don't think it's going to show up as well as I'd like, but you've got that nice narrow band right in the middle where a little bit of the face here isn't touching, you know, that's where that 60 would be, and then a little bit of face at the top isn't touching, and that's where that 30 is. So you got this narrow band of 45. That goddamn timer, man. Anyway, there's a whole lot to cram into this video alone, so I'm going to go ahead and get these other 3 seats done. Then once the head is assembled, I'll kind of show you guys just because it looks really cool with the beehives in it. So once I'm that stage, we'll get back to this. I need to go outside and do another layer of paint. Ugh. You don't want any drips or runs. That's one of the most important things. But you've got this beautiful glossy black, and if you just let them dry normally and then not do anything with it, it dulls up really bad. But that's why when we bake it later, I'll show you how it brings this wet gloss look back to it. And obviously it makes it more durable, but that's the last layer, so very happy with it. There's no thin spots, nice and thick top and bottom. So we will let this sit for a little while, and then we'll come out and get it and then bake it. So loud. I wonder why it won't stay on. I bet it's because it's probably not reading something right. Okay, so not everything that was supposed to happen in that video happened, and it's now the start of a new week. I had kind of some. I think I talked about getting that Royal Enfield stuff ready for when the Royal Enfield event at Baxter's. And so that was kind of my main focus. So there's a few things I didn't show and a few things I just didn't get done. And then I spent all day Friday, all day Saturday just, kind of mingling, talking to people and showing off that build. So that's how this week ended, which means there's a few things that we are going to kind of drag over into this week. Because I was so focused on that Royal Enfield, there was a lot of things that I just didn't get done and had been kind of dragging my feet on. But now I am full bore. I got to get some stuff done. So we'll be really productive this week. I'm also going to try different ways of like what I do and don't show with the camera. Trying to get a feel for it and just get an idea what people want to see. So, yeah, I will keep going. The next big thing we have coming up is I have my mini bike races on the 24th. And so I'll be spending a lot of time, getting that ready, but that won't be till evening. So I won't be distracted here in the shop, thankfully. But yeah, so kind of a little bit of a tease on what was going to be done in this video, but I just want to get this one wrapped up, and then I will start a new one for this week. And I really want to start trying to figure out a routine. So we'll get it, but thanks.